sets up Larsson here. Larsson, oh, he's in! Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! O'Reilly, how about that for a pass? Jota! How about that for a finish? That is Jota for you! In for Henrik Larsson, and Moravcik! His first goal for Celtic! Here is Shunsuke Nakamura! Exquisite!
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Celtic Unrestricted View. My name is Ryan Clifford and join me on this fail to prepare is preparing to fail is Daniel and Sean. Well lads, a lot to get through tonight. Since obviously last night we've probably done a wee bit calmer now. I would say I think if we'd done this after the game it'd have been a wee bit more fireworks, shall we say. But obviously a lot to get involved in, lads. Obviously nothing each first leg draw at Celtic Park in the playoff game in the Champions League against FC Karat from Kazakhstan. Sean, how are you, mate? How are you feeling about the result last night? And how's the fireworks, mate? Are you a bit chilly, a bit chilled out now, mate?
Hi everybody, good to see you again, Ryan and Daniel as well. Good evening to all the people tuning in. To be honest, mate, I've calmed down a wee bit of it. I was at the game. I was there with my daughter, and it was a tough watch. You know, there was very little in the game to be excited about. But for me, the tie's not over. So you know, there's optimism there, and we'll see where it goes for there, mate.
As Sean says, Daniel, it's wasn't the best of watches. I think we can all understand that we're not out the tie. We're still probably the favourites to go through now, due to obviously what the Celtic, like I said yesterday, the bookies' odds were well in our favour yesterday. I've actually checked this morning, we're still odds-on favourites to go into Kazakhstan and win, so there's still a feel-good factor in terms of that side of it, but overall for the game yesterday, I don't think it leaves some people, Daniel, especially anybody I've spoke to, with a lot of optimism going over to Kazakhstan, mate.
Yeah, definitely. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all well. Yeah, it was just very, very lacklustre last night. I think everybody went into the game expecting Celtic to come out, play the football that we know they can play, but I think it turned out to be a case of concerns raised by some fans getting highlighted, especially with the lack of penetration in the final third. Very poor on the ball. I think we just looked slow and very, very toothless at times. But like you said, the tie's not over. We go over there now and hopefully can get the job done over there. But yeah, I think everybody's frustrations have kind of came to a head now with a poor result when we were expecting maybe a bit of a different outcome.
I would definitely say a different outcome, mate. We all kind of said about 3-0, 4-0, try and get a comfortable scoreline, to take over there, because we know how hard it will be, obviously with the travel and obviously going over there. I don't think they've been beat in a long time at home. I think as well we have no one over there since we've played the teams over and played the stand over there as well. So it's not the best, mate. It's definitely, as Alan says, the chickens are basically definitely coming home to roost to a certain degree. Obviously, we aren't out the competition. We aren't not qualified yet. We're still in the mix. Everything's still in our favour, obviously, but you're going to Kazakhstan. It's going to be hard, but obviously, Sean, yeah, first, obviously, impressions. First half, mate, what was your thoughts of the first half? What do you think went wrong? Obviously, Adam Meader went off at half time. Was that the right change to do? Was there anything that you thought the first half was alarming or concerning, or were you still quite confident, even after the first half, that we would get a good, if you want to call it a bollocking, or a good team talk for the manager, and maybe obviously process into winning the second half? But what was your thoughts about the first half performance, mate?
Well, in terms of the first half performance, mate, it was a difficult watch. I'll say that much. I thought we just looked really pedestrian. I don't know. I don't know what you put that down to. Did we underestimate our opponents? I think, us as a Celtic fan base, I think we could all probably agree that we were probably guilty underestimating that team. We all had Celtic home and hosed by half time, but that team came with a clear game plan, and it was to really sit deep, sit tight, and just play off any chances that they got for counter attacks or set pieces. And they done it. They done it really, really effectively, and they were very shrewd in their time wasting. They wasted a hell of a lot of time. Broke up any momentum we had, certainly in the second half. But first half, packed out Celtic Park. The crowd were right up for it. The team just did not come out firing. Adam Ida, there was plenty of endeavour there, but there's just something no right with Adam Ida at the moment. I think it's definitely a confidence thing with him. He's got the talent, but we're just not seeing it on the park. And personally, I think, Maeda through the middle would have been my preferred choice, but the problem with that is we don't have the reinforcements out wide to subsidise that tactic. But I think Brendan tried his best to get what he could out of that forward line. I think he changed it, mixed it up about 3 or 4 times throughout the entire 90 minutes to try and just do something. But the first half, from a fan's point of view, regardless of what you think about signings or players we need in, that was not good enough from that team that was out there. You can say we need the X, Y, and Z, but the team that went out there was good enough to get the job done against them. Should have been good enough to get the job done. So that also falls on Brendan. In my opinion, you can blame the board for not bringing in the signings that Brendan needs, but regardless of that team that went out there should have still had enough in them to come out the blocks flying and at least put us into the going into the second half 1-0 up, or at least have some some dangerous attacks in there, on their goal. I mean, their keeper had nothing to do. I mean, the keeper spent more time rolling about on the deck, and Ronnie was injured, than he did actually diving for any shots. But the first half was dire to watch. Second half was a bit better, but by that point, was it too little, too late?
I think that's probably, I would say, Daniel, the way the first half went, it was no great to watch, shall we call it. We could sit here and do a man, and we could do that, but there's no point, because we all know we've still got a second half of the tie to go. You'd like to think we'll go over there, and like Sean says, as much as we will touch on obviously the signing and stuff like that again briefly, but we should still have that squad, Daniel, that's good enough to go over there and win, even at Celtic Park. Like you says, the squad wise, we had Arnie Engels on the bench, £11 million, Austin Trusty, £6 million. I don't think that squad, the other team they've got, don't think even anywhere near that. So in terms of that, it's pretty poor. Obviously, Adamida, like Sean says, first half, just nothing fell from it. For me, I don't want to do him in here, but I'm personally thinking these days are getting numbered at Celtic. The fact he took off at half time, for me, tells you the manager's not having him at this present time, whether it's confidence or it's whatever it is. I'll probably imagine he'll be on the bench on Saturday. I don't think he'll play after that. But it's not just him, Daniel. The full team weren't up to it. Certain players might have done certain things okay, but I think in their games, Daniel, you need a lot of your main players to turn up, no matter who the team is and or the opposition is, no matter what the level it is, and they didn't turn up, mate. And that's a simple fact.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that's the biggest frustration. Is that walking into the game, our manager has said, "This is the group of players we've got. They're strong enough to do the job." Like we said, it is only half time, but we should have been in the driver's seat heading over to Kazakhstan. Now it's a 50-50 foot race, which is not a position that we should have been in. We can sit and point individuals, but I think just as a whole, the team was very, very poor, especially in the final third. I mean, the amount of misplaced passes in the first half, especially, is just, it was baffling watching it. Going, how have these players who have spent quite a considerable amount of time with each other, how are they not able to link up and play those passes and get it into the box? Just to touch on Adamida, we've seen it. The manager has now said it wasn't working, and there's only so long I can try and plug away at it before I need to make a change, and that's why we've seen him come off at half time. But yeah, just a very, very underwhelming performance against an opposition that on any other day Celtic should be dispatching quite routinely. So yeah, I think definitely questions need to be addressed and spoke about in a bit more detail moving forward.
I think that's as much as I'm a big I've been a big advocate of we should be signing players quicker and the process is going to be quicker. Take away all that, realistically, just on the game, Sean, I think we've all agreed here that it was just a bad performance. People might say it was coming. That performance, people might have said before it, why be so confident? You're confident because you're Celtic, you know what the team is you're playing against. The odds are stacked against them. Celtic Park, full crowd. Go and get a victory and take it over to Kazakhstan, but it didn't work, Sean. So far, listen, like I says, we're talking. Most Celtic fans are talking that we've lost the game. We've not. We're still in a tie, but I think because of the excitement, Sean, maybe not getting the best teams to play against. You've got an opportunity. I don't want to say a free £40 million in your bank, but realistically, in terms of stats for the clubs, everything was going for us. And just on the night, mate, that sometimes happens when you don't turn up and you don't get results.
Well, this is it, Ryan. I mean, you have got to give credit to that team. You know, they came and they done what they wanted to do. Quite similar to what Celtic done with Atlanta. You know, the Atlanta were, you know, they're a quality side, fantastic. But Celtic managed to wear there and hold them to, you know, a 0-0 draw, which proved to be a vital, you know, vital points for us in that campaign. So this can happen in football. You know, it's I think maybe we were all just a bit guilty thinking that we were just going to show up and turn this mob over, and you know we quickly found out that wasn't going to be the case. But yeah, when you look at it as in a whole, you know you've got Adam Ida. You know this was a guy that we all wanted in the door. You know we did. Nobody can turn and say we didn't want that. He did well done. Because you know he'd impressed with his loan spell that he was at Celtic, and that's and Brendan heavily backed that signing as well. But at one point you've got nearly 26 million sitting on the bench when Ida comes off, and you've got Ida goes and Bernardo on the bench, and this is the dilemma that we're at. We're hearing people saying that the board are they backing Brendan, and he was heavily backed last season. I just feel like they're at a stalemate. The board want to stick to their model, how their player training model, and I think Brendan's ideology is a bit different to theirs, so they're just not married with each other at the moment. Brendan wants to go for these higher priced signings, which can work But at the same time, if you're the board looking at the signings that Brendan's brought in, yes, they have contributed massively last season, but either Engels, Trusty, you could even throw Bernardo in there as well. Are we seeing any sell-on value in any of those players at the moment? We've paid big money for them, but I don't see any of those players selling for any more than we've paid for them, based on their performances already at Celtic. I mean, Engels, I do think is the only one that's, he's there's a lot more to come for him. I think he's going to be a really, really good player for Celtic, and I hope he does bring us in a profit. But what we're seeing for Ida and what we're seeing for Trusty, I think we're going to be at a loss with you guys. So it's a difficult one, but we've got ourselves now in a position where we just need anybody, get anybody in these positions. We can't hang about anymore. We need to get people in that forward line, and now we're, I spoke about it on the pod a few weeks back about if Alistair Johnson gets injured, we're looking at Ralston at right back, and it came to fruition, and I was saying weeks ago that I think we should get somebody in that right back position. So, we've dragged our heels a wee bit now. I think we can all agree on that. But I do still fancy Celtic in the second tie. I do. I know the person viewing from Kazakhstan actually coincidentally had said that they're a lot more attacking at home. That will definitely suit Celtic. It's going to open the game for us. With them sitting in and making it difficult, we just really struggled. And it just came at a time where you've got Ida, who's not firing for Celtic, Maeda, who looks like he's nowhere near it. And you've also got to factor in that this team are 20 games into the season. Even though they've not got the same quality as Celtic, but they definitely looked like they had a game plan and they knew what they had to do to see it out.
No, I think you're right, mate. As much as we can be negative about our team, you do need to give credit to Ray. They came with a game plan and it worked. For me, Daniel, the biggest thing for me I want to be critical of was, I think Barry put in the comments about team at Livingston will probably do the same on Saturday. St Mirren done the same when they came to Celtic Park. Falkirk, they're different. They try and play football, but 9 times out of 10, teams will come to Celtic Park and I don't want to say park the bus, but do that low block type tactic where they'll just try and sit back, defend, try and get a goal off the counter. And you would like to think we'd be used to that, but when teams are like that and you've got a lot of the ball and you can't break them down, for me, Daniel, you need to play the ball quicker. It's no 5 and 6 touches. It happened in the cup final last year against Aberdeen. You're leaving Liam Scales with the ball. Liam Scales he's all right. Liam Scales is okay, but he's not a ball playing centre back. He's not somebody that gets the ball crisp like Mike Rossy done last year when he played boom away. Vickers gets the ball, it's away. But when it get left to Scales, it slows the game down. That's no on him. That's just it's not his type of game. And when the ball's getting through him, it's just gone wide. It's not going anywhere. But I don't think it mattered who it was last night. If it was Scales, McGregor, last night it was just all slow. It only got quicker in the last 10-15 minutes when we're chasing a goal. I just thought for me, Daniel, we just looked lack of ideas, lack of quality, it wasn't a lack of trying. It was just one of the games where we just looked flat. It was just you sensed in the first half the crowd was growing, it was getting anxious, we were trying to push them on. But for me, you need to be quicker on the ball. If things aren't working, Daniel, it's 2-3, boom, get it forward. And I just think for me, mate, it lacked a lot last night, and that was one reason I think we didn't really do much and break them down because we weren't playing the ball quick enough and the play wasn't attacking, it wasn't flowing. And if you're doing that, Daniel, it's going to be very hard to score goals.
Yeah, definitely. I think also them managing to get, albeit it was offside, but I think them managing to actually get the ball in the back of the net did kind of put a bit more anxiety into the crowd. Because before the game, everybody was up for it. Everybody was the atmosphere was there. And then obviously, like we say, as time goes on and play's starting to slow down and the intensity is starting to drift, then the crowd does grow anxious and it becomes, are we going to score here? Because we know the amount of times in Scotland when we've had to play against that low block that we can do it. I mean, we've seen it against Kilmarnock at Celtic Park when Vickers scores that absolute screamer. We've seen how quickly the ball was getting moved in that first half, and I think we ended up 3 or 4 at half time. So we know that we can do it when we move the ball quick. But like you're saying, if there's guys in that team who aren't as comfortable playing that ball very, very quickly and moving that and keeping up with that tempo, then it does start to become a problem and you're spending too much time on the ball, 2 and 3 touches, when in reality it should be 1 or 2, get it forward and play with intensity that we should be playing in a Champions League qualifier. So, yeah, a lot of anxiety did start to grow in the crowd, but credit to Kaira Almaty because they came with a game plan, they executed it to absolute perfection. Although it was offside, they did actually manage to get the ball in the net. So credit to them because they've done what they had to do. But people are very quick to dismiss that team. Even though they've came through 3 rounds of qualifying already to get to us, so they know how to play these games, and that's how we've seen that with the time wasting and stuff like that. They know how to navigate these games. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it was just a very, very frustrating Celtic performance, and yeah, not moving the ball quick enough came to fruition, and lack of quality in the forward areas showed its face.
I think, like you mentioned there, Sean, as well, Alistair Johnson. Again, the lack of preparation, it's no help to us in terms of getting caught in the door. We all know Tony Ralston, listen, he does everything he can for us at the ability that he's got, but if we want to progress as a football club going forward, there's definitely certain players in the team that we need to get better in, and I think he has one. And I don't know about you, Sean, but I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think we need to go and get a right back now. I know Ralston will probably try and take his chance, but I think Tony knows as soon as AJ's back, or as soon as you go and get a better right back than him, he knows he's going to be the same job of what he's doing, which he might be okay with, which is fine. He's still playing at a good level, and he's probably still getting paid well. He's still training well. He's still at a really good level of player in terms of his own ability. So, but do you think a right back now, Sean, is probably a must? Because do we go to Ibrox with Tony Ralston at this stage of the season? For me, I don't think we can, even though they're no brilliant. We've not done well against them the last 4 games. We've not beaten them with 4 games. We're no, after that result there, we don't know how next week's going to go. Are we going to be in a wee bit of down against Ibrox? So is that a case where we need to go and get a right back now, Sean, even if it's a 6-month loan deal to get his cover?
Absolutely, mate. It's a concern for me going into Ibrox because although Rangers are absolutely awful at the moment, the one shining light in their entire squad is probably the boy Gassam that plays out in the left wing forward. Now, I don't fancy Ralston up against him for 90 minutes, and that boy Gassam likes to go down as well, and Ralston's very hands-on, so it's a concern for me going into that game with Ralston, but it looks like that's what it's going to be. We've got no other choice. But I did say, like I touched on earlier, I did say weeks ago that I felt like right back was a position that we had to strengthen in, just because when Alistair Johnson is not in that team, we lose quality. The quality is there in the replacement with Alston. And the same can be said for left back. We need somebody left back just to cover if Tierney can't play. There is obviously positions all over the park. You could if you had carte blanche, you would just go crazy. But I think that the thing as well is that you need to think about is we can all talk about this player trading model and the board sleeping at the wheel, or all this kind of stuff, but it's not just as easy as going in and paying 6, 7, 8 million on something and getting quality. We're seeing that with Adam Eder, we're seeing that with Trusty. These are guys that we're paying good money on, and skills that we're getting a better job at skills and we are Trusty. So it's a very, very difficult market to shop in. So as a concern, mate, it's a real concern, this right back position. But there's nothing to say that whoever we bring in, whether we spend 6, 7, 8 million on them, that they're going to come in and do a job for us. I just don't know, but I just want to see. We just need to get reinforcements for that first team. It's so light. If you were asking me if Brendan had the players that he wanted, James Forrest and Adam Eder would have started that game. In my opinion, it would have been Maeda through the middle, and it would have been two different wingers. So this is Brendan is having to make do with what he's got. But in saying that as well, I still think what we've got should have been enough to get the job done against that team. I think I've seen something like they're ranked something like 322nd in the rankings or something like that. Aberdeen are higher than them. So this is what you're up against. But I don't know about you two, but got into that Glasgow derby with Ralston at right back up against that boy Kassam. That is a frightening prospect, because that guy does, you don't want to sing any of their players' praises, but it's glaringly obvious that boy has been the one player in that entire squad that looks like he's got real quality.
No, like you're saying, Sean, you're a football fan as well, and you're allowed to mention other teams' players, and he is a threat for them, 100%. For me, Daniel, I thank Ralston for what he's done at the club and how he's came from going out on loan and basically been told you no really want to be you're not going to play here, and then he's worked himself in with hands, got himself at a level where he's played a lot more games than maybe he probably thought he would have. But I think we should be, again, it's no disrespect against Tony because he's played in a far better level than me and I will get to. But if we want to progress a football club, guys like Ralston, well, here you go, Daniel. Right? So last night in 2025 in the Champions League, we had an aging James Forrest, Liam Scales, Yang, who else? And Ralston on the park. If you said 4 years ago, they boys are still be playing me at that level of player at the age, even the James Forrest aging, you're probably me talking about. If somebody told you with the finances you've got, the manager you've got, the infrastructure you've got, the success you've had, by the way, in 2-3 years' time, you're nearly not buying Munich out, you'll get this amount of money, and you're sitting with some of the players to try and help you towards the Champions League. It's all about opinions, Daniel. What I'm saying might be no anybody else's opinion. But I think it's really poor, mate. And as much as Brendan has to do what he's got to do on the park, he's still got to get that team to win the game. That squad should be good enough to win that game. Sean's right, but it doesn't take away that if it's between. I do agree with Sean as well that I do believe there's. I don't know what information wise, I can't say that, but it seems as a stalemate if it's between Desmond, Lowell, Mackay, Nicholson, and Rodgers, and there's some sort of block there that's stopping us from progressing, Daniel. And I don't know what it is, but to go into a Champions League qualifier with some of the players that probably, like Sean says, wouldn't even get in your team a few years ago, if we get the quality that we should be getting in, I just think, Daniel, we're in a position where we shouldn't be in. Is it down at the board? Possibly. Is it the recruitment team? Possibly. I personally don't think it's a manager, because the manager's not the guy that sanctions money for the players, and he's not the guy that goes and picks all the players. He might get to say so, but he's got a group of people that does that and helps him for that. So I don't know who's to blame for it, Daniel. We're not out yet, so I'm not going to say that's us out and it's sack the board or do this. That's not for me to say. That's for other people to, that's their opinions. But I do believe in the board, the recruitment team, if this goes the way that we don't want it to go, Daniel, then there's going to be a lot of answers to question.
Yeah, definitely. Like you says, bar scales, even last season, the rest of the boys you mentioned there would not have been starters. And that just comes down to, like we says, that stalemate upstairs between whether it's recruitment, the board, the manager. Something's not right. And the fact that we've seen in the past that when changes have been made under Ange, he was allowed to go he turned around and he said, "This is who I want." They went, "All right, boom," got them in the door. There was barely any hassle. Brendan comes back, and initially we get, "Oh, this looks good," blah blah blah. We get ourselves into the strongest position arguably we've ever been in, and then they turn around and go, "We're actually quite happy the way we are now." There's no a lot of ambition there, and it's frightening because we've been saying for a long time that we get through these qualifiers, we'll be all right, we'll get people in. Now we're at a stage where I'm not saying we've not lost, but we're not in a fantastic position either. We should be sitting here 3-4 goals up, going, we've got a great squad, but we're not. We're sitting here, we're 0-0, heading 7,000 miles, with a weaker front line, now a weakened back line, Derby at the weekend after a 7,000 mile trip. It's very frustrating for a lot of fans, and I think that obviously the problem at right back now, no disrespect to Anthony Ralston, but like we says, if you turned around to me last season and said, "Oh, by the way, Alistair Johnson gets injured a couple of games into the season and heading into a second leg of a qualifier and a Glasgow derby that your starting right back is going to be Anthony Ralston," I would be a bit concerned. And I'm not saying I'm concerned now, but it's quite alarming to see that we're now waiting until things are going wrong rather than actually preventing it. So I feel that's the biggest frustration with everybody now, is that they're now at a position where we are risking no qualifying for the Champions League. Do I think that Celtic still should have a strong enough squad to go and do the job? Absolutely. I'm not sitting here saying I think we're going to go out. But if that does become a reality, then things aren't going to go very well with the fans and the board and the disconnect. It's just going to get worse, which is not what we should be looking at.
I agree with you, Daniel. We should all be singing after Hamish the same hymn sheet. It doesn't look like that now. Even some of the fans are split on the board, the recruitment team, signings, everything is all murder and we're okay in the league at the moment. We're through in the cup. That's positive. But when you do get a big result like this, Sean, it's like we mentioned before we come on, mate. It's always going to throw up comments we've all said 3 weeks ago and why we're not getting this player in or why things not getting done quick enough. It is kind of the same every year. But on what Connor says there, what's your thoughts on what you said there, Sean? For me, I'm going to probably agree with him in terms of the money men. I think the money men's were saying, right, Brendan, take away European football or not, this is your budget. Before the qualifier, spend it. And if you do get through, there's a bit more for you to maybe get this star player or this extra quality player, one or two to help you for the obviously the next stage and the rest of the season. I feel sure that your budget should be kind of set in stone, but a rough estimate. Go and get the players, and if they fail, then that's on the recruitment team. And they go, "Well, Brendan, we gave you a budget, and we signed off what you wanted, and that's it." Then we can go, right, that's your problem. But I think because there's no communication, Sean, I think that's a big thing for me, mate. That nobody's coming out. There's questions that Brendan's getting asked and pressers, which for me should be on Michael Nicholson. It shouldn't be on Brendan Rodgers. He's a football guy. He shouldn't be talking about transfers, and I don't know what's happening. For me, I don't know what you think of that, Sean, but I just think everything in terms of that side it's all up mums now, mate, and there's no communication. And I think until we get communication and clarity from the CEO, or if it's Lawwell comes out with a video, or them, whoever it is that decides to go and front up the media, because it shouldn't be the Brendan Rodgers for me, mate. It's got to be somebody at the club. Until that happens, you're always going to get this ruckus of negativity or the board or recruitment. It's always going to be something, mate, until this gets squashed by a board member, in my opinion, mate.
Aye, I do agree with what the viewer said. I also do agree with, what one of the other viewers said. I think it was Stephen had said, Rogers got, 26 million for Ida, Engels and Trusty. So the board, I do see why the board are being a bit pragmatic. They're not seeing the return on their investments in these players yet. Like I touched on earlier, I don't see any of the players. Maybe Engels, I have got high hopes for him, but the other two, I don't see any. We're not going to recuperate our money on the two guys unless things change drastically and they're going to have tremendous seasons. But in terms of the game, these results can fool ourselves up. This can happen. So, it's just party football, mate. It is party football. I mean, if you'd have looked at a touch on a game like Celtic when they played Atalanta, that Atalanta squad must have trout to us like 3 times over. Probably even one of their players alone might have been even worth more than their entire squad. And they couldn't beat Celtic at home. So these results do happen. It's not just exclusive to Celtic, but there just does seem to be some sort of like it's disjointed now at the minute between Brendan and the board. The board want to do it their way. Brendan wants to do it his way. I know, like you're saying, just give him a budget. What does that budget look like, and what does it look like for Celtic if it doesn't pay off? You look at Ida, Trusty, and Engels. That's 26 million that Celtic have put out for those players, and it's not a guarantee that it's going to work. Sorry, guys,
No, that's all right.
Make an appearance on the pod. But it's just, I think now where we're at now is we've dragged our heels far too long. It's all right to say the board want to do it this way, Brendan wants to do it this way. We need to meet in the middle and get something done. We can't drag our heels any longer. There needs to be, if it's we're going to buy X, Y, and Z, prospects for the future, great. And then we go and spend another 3 on big money signings at Brendan's back, fine. What does that look like? 20 million, 25 million. We just need to do it now because we're running out of time. We're just running out of time. It needs to be done.
No, I agree with you, mate. They've got to come to some sort of conclusion. Obviously, Brendan Daniel, for me, he's wanting one thing. His pressers again last night. In my opinion, this is how I seen it last night. His pressers. Anybody else, yourself, Sean, people in the comments, other Celtic fans might see it different. For me, he's just kind of proving to me that what I've been thinking anyway, what's going on, that I think I've been pretty vocal on. He's basically saying the fans are right. They've had the right to be frustrated. I don't know why things aren't happening. Now, that's him saying it. He's saying, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why things are taking time. I've told him what we need. So he's kind of, Daniel's intelligent. We spoke about yesterday. He's intelligent. He knows what he's doing. And I do agree with Brown Warrior. Up his big grab as well. He done it with Leicester. He came out and said things as well. He done it before he left the last time. I don't know if that's just his way of trying to get the best he can. I don't know how he gets about in terms of if it's because he knows, like, I'm going to get players here. I'm going to go into the season, so I'll just make me digs. I don't know, right? But I'm giving Rodgers a bit of jip for last night because I do agree with one of the commenters. I think I did say to other people during the game as well, why did they not go to a 4-4-2? Why are you taking that first strike and putting a one on? Why stay the same formation? Go to a plan B. That's one thing I will be honest, Daniel. I don't think he's got a plan B. I think it's always fast, free, a flowing attacking football. I think he's a cracking manager. He's a cracking man manager. He's a cracking coach. Brilliant. But I think that last night for me, Daniel, like Sean says, we tried everything. We changed guys up front, but we didn't go to a 2 up front, Daniel. It just changed the personnel. We didn't change formation. But I just think the defensively, I don't think we were bad. Midfield, we can be a bit better. But for me, Daniel, the biggest thing for me is the forward line. Again, I'm not going to mince my words here. For me, it's one of the worst forward lines I've ever seen as a Celtic fan. And I can't believe that that's, again, it's not against them. It's not their fault that we're in this position. But they're trying to lead you to a Champions League. And realistically, some of them can't even turn up Scotland every week now, to make it better in Europe, Daniel. So that's just my concern. It was the forward areas. We didn't even look like we were close to getting anybody in. I just think we need to modernise what we're doing. I'm not saying get the board out. I'm just saying there's some one or two new voices in there to either help them, or if it's a sporting director, somebody else has got to be involved with the manager, because whatever, like Sean says, whatever's happening there, for whatever reason, it happened the first time with him, it's happened this time. We don't know if it happened with Ange because Ange was getting things quicker. Is that why he left the Spurs? Who knows? Or was it just because Spurs, more money, better attraction, a better challenge? We don't know, Daniel. But for me, even if we get through this, we need to change the way we're doing our process, because it has worked, but football's moving forward and we need to move forward, mate.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what a lot of fans have been saying recently after this game. Like, this is the way it's been done for years. It's not acceptable to carry on that way. It's a great point that Big Rab makes, saying that Brendan drags his heels and doesn't move on. And if that is the case, then something needs to be done. There needs to be a bridge in that gap, because it's just going to keep dividing fans, dividing opinions. And Brendan is very, very intelligent. We've seen it over the years. If he is frustrated, he'll find a way to voice that frustration without actually coming out and saying, this is what's happening. And I think last night was a big way of him showing us that he's not feeling the greatest now. He looked very down. He looked very tired. And it's hard, because as a fan base, we want to see the best version of Celtic always, and we will always strive to be there. It's just that there's this big gap now between, I want to do it my way, no, I want to do it my way. There needs to be some sort of bridge, like we've been saying. Whether we see that or not, I'm not too sure. But for me, I don't think the way it was looking, that Brendan will be looking to sign a new deal, because the things he was saying leading up to the game and then last night, it just doesn't look. He just looks very tired and very frustrated. And there is only so many times he can repeat what he's saying before things do change, because things need to change, or we've gambled one of the biggest opportunities we've had in a long time. So yeah, something needs done, whether it's new people in the boardroom, no saying getting them out, but something needs to be done. New voices need to be put in there. So yeah, then it's now showing on the pitch and not just in the stands. So yeah, that front line, like you say, is terrifying, man. You're walking into big games now going, I don't know if we actually have the tools to go and win this game, which is no a position we thought we'd be in ever, after watching the front line we've just finished a season with. So yeah, a lot of quality needs put into the squad, but yeah, something needs done off the pitch as well.
Obviously, last night as well, Sean, the stats that obviously proves how kind of dominating we were in the game. 11 shots at goal, 3 target, 75% possession, 69% passes, 87% pass accuracy, 12 fouls against us, for us, 2 yellow cards, obviously no reds, offsides none, and 15 corners, mate. I think the 15 corners just shows you how kind of it might have looked like we were attacking in terms of shots at goal and stuff, but it just shows you, mate, we did have maybe a bit of the play that we should have probably created more chances, mate. And I think obviously some people might not be stats or data orientated, but 9 times out of 10, when you look at things like that, it kind of tells you what maybe should be happening in the game, mate.
Aye, it doesn't read for good viewing when you look at these stats, and it's been a problem area for Celtic over the years with corners. We just can't. We just never seem to score from corners. You get the odd goal now and again, but the volume of corners that Celtic get compared to what we convert from them, staggering. But yeah, I think the only chance we had last night from a corner was a Liam Scales header that went wide. And it's so draining, when as soon as you see Celtic getting a corner, you just think nothing's going to come of this. But there's no denying we had complete control of the game. It's just we never done anything with it. And in actual fact, they looked quite dangerous when they did get forward. Which was rare, but it just didn't make for good reading at all. Those stats. I think there was plenty of endeavour from, but I don't know, were they feeling the pressure of it? They knew there was a lot of expectation on them. The crowd were on their back from the get go. They weren't happy with what they were seeing, which was rightly so. But it's just one of those games now. We need to draw a line under it, move on, look to the next game. I do think we'll get the job done the next game, but the more pressing issue is the comments, obviously, for Brendan after the match, and this stalemate and standoff between him and the board, and it's just so frustrating because I'm not one of these sack the board. I do like the Celtic board. I do think they've done incredible things for us over the years, which probably goes unmerited quite a lot of the time with Celtic fans. You look at Ange Postecoglou's success, that was because the board backed Ange Postecoglou, and they obviously had to get him in last minute. That was somebody that they'd obviously profiled in the event that Eddie Howe never came on board, which ultimately happened. And the board acted quick to get Postecoglou in, which wasn't everybody's, that didn't go down well with fans at first, and look how that turned out. So the board has done tremendous things for Celtic, but in this particular season, they have dragged their heels, and they need to be called out on that as well. But in the same breath, Brendan Rodgers needs to be held accountable for that last night as well, because that's also on him with the quality that we had there. I think it was Big Rabbit saying about McCowan. I was amazed that McCowan never got on that park last night. Amazed because he offers so much in terms of creativity and a goal threat. So the fact that he wasn't even featured, it was baffling to me. His subs last night, I thought, were baffling. I don't think his subs were great at all last night, and I don't think the timing of them was, apart from me that half time, I thought that was the only player that you could have said get him off at half time, get Maeda through the middle. But something as well, just with Maeda out on the left this season as they marrying up now. I don't know. I don't know if it's just too early to call or what, but I just feel like he's not looking as comfortable on the left. I don't know if it's because Tierney stays a lot wider, and Tierney wants to be that guy running up the line, which means Maeda needs to come in a wee bit, more. Whereas Taylor was inverted, that meant Maeda could stay out, hog the touchline. I don't know. I hope I'm not just reading too much into it, but I just feel like Maeda for the start of this season does not look as comfortable on the left. I think we need to go in through the middle, but in order to do that, we need reinforcements up front.
I agree with you, Sean. I think for me, Daniel, like Sean says, I think he's right with Maeda. I don't think he's a winger now. I think the way that he plays, he just looks like a striker. But I did say a few weeks ago that we had to get a number 9 no matter what he'd have done, because you can't rely on him to do it again. You can't rely on any player to do everything again. That's why you always need to try and improve year on year on year. And he has got to be, listen, as much as we all like Maeda and what he's done for us in the last year. If Adam Maeda misses that chance, or Kyogo, or anybody in the past, they're getting crucified for it, and that could be crucial to Ty Daniel. He's got to score that. He's much more time as well. I think when Maeda's got time, I think he rushes it and he panics and he goes, all right, but then when he's not got time, some of the goals at Ibrox and other things, he's brilliant. He's one touch finish, he's got it. So don't know if that's a thing with him, Daniel, that he's got to, it's instinctive, it's no right, what did he here? I don't know if that's just me looking for afar, but I'm really hoping that he's no been, if you want to call it, in the football game now tapped up, or his head's been changed, or I don't know, because he's definitely no been the same player since last season. I hope it's no, once we qualify, that he's away, because I don't think we can afford to sell any more assets, because I'm being honest, the odds first we're going to get replacements on what we've seen this summer. I don't, and especially only maybe 9 or 10 days to go. We need 4 already as it is. So if you then sell him, you need 5, and to get 5 players in maybe less than a week, it's hard to get in mind over a summer, never mind in a week. So I don't think we can sell anybody, Daniel, any big hitters anymore. I don't think we need the money, especially if we do qualify for it. Even if we don't, we've still got money there, and it's not like we've minus £5 million in the bank. We need to sell. I just think that he definitely needs to be called out. That's maybe harsh, but he definitely does need criticised for his miss last night. Again, this isn't just the first time, by the way. He's missed one at Ibrox, he's missed one in the semi-final as well, so he has got it in his game to do that, and that's why for me, I don't think he's a top striker. I think he's a very good striker, but I think we can't lose him, but I do think we need Daniel. Again, like Sean says, it could be 7 million, 10 million, a million, whatever price it is to go and get a top striker. I think it's an absolute must, Daniel, because can't we go a season with Osmond, Kenny, and out of form Ida, under confidence Ida, and Maeda, who we don't know what's going to turn up? For me, Daniel, I don't think we can, and if we do, then again, I think we're gambling with a full season, mate.
Yeah, definitely. I think majority of us said heading into this season that we would like to see Maeda through the middle because of how effective he was last season. And now with the situation on the wings, we're not able to see that as much. And I definitely do feel that with the amount of space that Kieran Tierney takes up on that left-hand side, they look a bit disconnected. Because I do think Maeda was expecting to be a forward, like a striker this season. And then obviously with the situation on the wings, we've had to now go, you're going to have to play on the left for us. So I do think he is looking again uncomfortable at times on that left-hand side. Maybe it's down to no being used to the style of play of Kieran Tierney because he is a very, very different player to Greg Taylor. But yeah, something seems to be missing with Dyson Maeda at the moment. What that is, I don't think we'll know. But yeah, he does need to catch criticism for that opportunity that he does miss because he does have a lot of time. Sets himself and then fires it straight at the keeper. So he's definitely a striker rather than a winger. But yeah, like you say, Ryan, we do, for me, still need to be looking at a top quality striker to bring in that competition. But we can't do that unless we've got players on the wing who are going to feed him and support him. Because you could have anybody up front, if you're not creating the chances, he's not going to score. So it's about having that support on either wing, quality support on either wing for him, regardless of who it is, and getting chances into that box for our strikers to score his goals. But yeah, like JP says there, I think the biggest worry at the moment is that Alistair Johnson injury, and heading into some pretty big games with a don't want to say weakened backline because it can seem a bit disrespectful, but a backline of quality. We're not at our full strength, put it that way. It's not full strength backline heading into some pretty big games. So yeah, it's a wee bit concerning, and hopefully there is a bit of movement now after a poor result.
I think, Sean, no matter what the result is next week, we still need to sign players. So I get what Patrick Simpson was saying there, that well, he thinks, I don't know if it's similar to you, Sean, but he thinks that will the board trust spending me big money about Ida, Engels and Trusty? I'm maybe the other side. Like, I think they might have no been. I'm Leader's biggest fan, right? Far from it, but he still did score 20 goals last year. He still contributed, like you said, mate. Engels was his best season numbers wise. I thought Engels was all right last year, and I thought Trusty was okay. But is he long term? I don't know. But realistically, we got the money back on them qualifying for Europe. They helped us to a double. We were 30 seconds potentially for beating Bayern Munich and maybe going to extra time and winning. Who knows, penalties? We don't know. But so for me, I don't think it's just my opinion. Maybe you might be different. Other fans might be different. I don't think it's a gauge to put signings on, because realistically, they didn't make us worse. It's not like we spent £10 million a year in Barkas. We've not won anything. We're maybe 10 million minus in the bank. It's not like that. We're bank's booming. The teams on the park was booming last year. We just narrowly get beat in a cup final. For me, I don't know if it's just an excuse because people don't want to spend mega money or the board don't want to do it. But for me, I'm not using the excuse, because the money we spent, yes, but we got the money back and more, and we got success on the park. So I don't see it as a massive negative. You might be different, mate, I don't know, but I don't see it as a way to no spend money, because I think no matter who's in charge next year, if Ben doesn't stay, I've seen a few comments last night saying, other night when we were on, if he doesn't stay, why should we spend money? Why? Well, the club still need to move forward. It doesn't matter if it's John Kennedy, Damien Duff, Eddie Howe, Ansbrough Scotland. We still need to spend money to keep moving forward, mate.
No, I completely agree with everything you've just said there, Ryan. Also, I do agree with Patrick as well, that, that maybe the board only seeing their future investment, because this is a board that seem to, there is a model there of like getting players in and then moving them on. They done it even with Kyogo. It wasn't millions upon millions, but we still made a profit off of Kyogo. So this is a board that wants to see profit off the money that they're putting out. That's not always going to happen. You're right in what you say. You still need to spend money regardless of whether you're going to make profit off that or not. And they did have value last season. I think Ida, he's young. He's came in for a lot of money. There's a lot of expectation on him, and that's probably weighing on him heavily. He's came in. He's replaced somebody who was idolised by Celtic fans, in Kyogo, and maybe he's just feeling the whole pressure of it, mate. Like it's there's just something though, because when he came into Celtic on loan, he had a fantastic season. He was really, really valuable for us. I think the game against Motherwell away, Hibs away, he was really, really valuable for Celtic in those games, and he stepped up and took big penalties when it was asked of him. If we can get that player back, he will be a real asset for us. It's just he's really, really short for confidence now. But that was what £9 million we paid for him. The board dragged their heels on that sign as well. It was done very, very last minute. So it's a real difficult one. You do need to spend money and move forward, like you said, Ryan, but it still needs to be done diligently. Like, I know we've got money, but we are in a real position of power and strength, especially over our rivals in terms of financially. So you do also want to protect that as well. You don't want to be going and spending ludicrous money on players that are A, are they going to bring you in profit, and B, are they going to do it on the pitch? So there really needs to be a lot of thought goes into when we do decide to spend big, and when we do decide to be a wee bit pragmatic. I think like Negrin, although he had a great game last night, I think he's been a great signing, and we probably will see profit on him You know, he looks a really good player. But we need to marry the both of them together. We go for players like that, and like you said, Ryan, we need to spend big on players that have got a good profile. You know that it's a risk. You know, transfers are always a risk, but you need to take that risk. And now more than ever, the board need to start making waves in this transfer market. But there is also the argument of do the board historically leave last minute so they can get the best deal on the players that are available, because clubs are more inclined to want to sell them as the transfer window goes on at a lesser price to get them off the books. So is that a factor in? I have got faith in the board will come good with signings. I do think they will come in thick and fast, but if they don't, it's got to be a tough ask. The players, I do agree with what you said as well, Ryan, about like Maeda. Sometimes if he's got time, I think Kyogo was a wee bit like that. I know you see a lot of some of his goals. At Ibrox when he took the shot first time, against Hibs in the cup. A lot of his goals were very similar. When he had less time to think, he was more effective. Maeda, can fall into that bracket as well sometimes, but I think if you took it for last season, right, if we still had Jota and Kun, if you're going into that game with Jota, Kun and Maeda, we don't draw that game, mate, in my opinion. So there's what we are lacking in that forward line. We are lacking in quality big time.
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Sean. I think we are lacking quality in the final third. Again, obviously, Daniel, like Sean says, in terms of, I do agree with him that one or two project upcoming signings or one or two cheap signings like Negrin, if you get the deal, if you do your due diligence and get that deal cheap, brilliant. But you do then need to balance it out, and you still need to buy, if you can, a proven quality player. Like Sean says, you still need to make sure that guy is going to be the right fit. And I do agree with Sean, it can be gambles. Signings can be gambles, especially when you're paying big wages, big money. But I'm maybe a believer, Daniel, and we're thinking anybody else thinks as well. If somebody's done previously well at their previous club or their previous clubs, they're probably going to do the same for you. Because if we go and sign somebody now, just say, there was actually a guy who watched the podcast, Nick, he actually texted me the other day about a player for Bodo Glimp. I think he scored like 18, 19 goals this year, right? Might not be the best of levels, Norwegian league, but he scored in Europe, he scored last night for them. A guy who scored 20 goals for Bodo Glimp should become to Celtic and probably doing the same.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think along a goal scorer as a goal scorer, in my opinion. If you score goals anywhere, you should do it anywhere. That's just the way I see it, Daniel. So, as a gamble, but if you scout somebody who has scored goals a lot of, like Adam Meader, right, for example, because he's here, and Johnny Kenny, right, and Osmond. You might have done it okay 2 years ago, but not this season. None of them really before they came to Celtic were natural out-and-out goal scorers. Either I think you maybe 14, 15 goals if that. We have nobody, even my edit for the game here was an absolute goal machine. So I think if you buy somebody with a proven record, like Sean says, they might cost you, but I'm a just believer, Daniel, because I play the position myself, I don't know, but for me, strikers are the most important player in the team because they're the guys score you the goals, the guys that will win you the trophies, win you the leagues, win you Champions League, score you big derby goals. Yes, people might go defensively, well, he might save you a goal or he might tackle that, but if you guys up front don't score, you never win a football game. So you need a top quality striker. Jackie Marcus left, Kyogo's left, Dembele, Edward, and we've no got anybody, in my opinion, Daniel, that's that quality that you can rely on, that's going to get you maybe 25 to 30 goals a season.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've definitely seen the drop-off in the quality of the Celtic front line. Like Sean says, if a player is...
Just to touch on that, you can go back, Daniel. You could be right, mate, but if money talks, mate, if you offer somebody a good deal, you give them a good outweigh the club, I can give you this, you win trophies, stepping stone to this. It's all about money, it's about talking, it's about trying to get them here. Listen, I'm being honest, JP, and anybody else who's obviously Celtic fans, I think we underestimate what we can buy. I think we undervalue ourselves. I think we think that we need to go and spend £2-3 million in players, and that's all we can do. Look at Club Brugge. They've spent £30 million, and just about every one of their players have been really good players. So you don't need to go and spend £40 million on 2 players. You can spend £30 million. I know we've done that either on Trusty and Engels last year. But like I said, they still helped you win trophies. They still helped you get into that format. So there's no been failures. Even though, Daniel, I'm not his biggest fan. Far from it. I'm actually thinking he's need enough finish with Celtic, right? In terms of being the main man and getting more chances. But he's not a failure because he's still part of a team that won a double last year. It helped us to win the treble. What's that? All right, I don't know that. It was that. Do you think? Be honest, JP, I don't know what the issue is, mate. That's obviously Nicholson and other guys at the agents and clubs that will obviously talk about stuff like that, mate. But just thought I'd touch on JP. I get what JP's saying, Daniel, but I think we undervalue ourselves as a club. I think we think that we can't go and get these players. And I think all you need to do is ask the question. If you can't get them, then you move on. Fair enough. But ask the question first. If somebody's too expensive or too out your wage bracket, that's fine. But like I said the other day, Daniel, I think sometimes we will have to tweak the model for 1 or 2 individuals because eventually we'll need to do it because you'll not get certain players if you don't do it, mate.
Yeah, definitely. And we see that at top clubs at the highest level. There is a mix of maybe prospect players coming up, whether that be from youth level. Obviously, with ours, it's the buy cheap, sell model. You see that in any successful team. There is definitely a balance of guys who have either came up or they've not spent as much money on, that they've improved themselves and done well. But there is also that mix of tried and tested quality, and we've seen it in Celtic teams over the years. So why does every player need to be a development player now? Because we've not done that in previous. We've had either existing top quality at the club, do you know what I mean, come in, and it's been a mix. So yeah, it's a great point that JP makes. The league can be a hindrance to some people, but if the promise of success, decent money, Champions League, European football isn't enough to bring you to the club, you move on and you find somebody with a record that is a good goal scorer who will want to do that, because there will be somebody. No, everybody's going to turn around and go, nah. There is a lot more promising things at Celtic that would attract you to the club rather than the league being a hindrance, in my opinion. But that is just my opinion.
I don't know what you think of that, Sean. We can end the show on that, what JP says to my, obviously, what I think. Are you in line with me, or do you think we do undervalue or we can go for better? Or are you the same as JP? It can be hard to get players here, and we do need to obviously stick within a certain budget.
I do think obviously the league can be a hindrance in terms of the quality of our league. You know, it's nothing against the teams that compete in it, but there is clubs more willing to go to the Championship than they are willing to come here, and yet here we can offer European football and being competitive, winning trophies, leagues. But look at Riley McGree. He went to a Championship side, and he could have came and played Champions League football with Celtic. So it's. I do agree with JP, but again, you need to look at what we need to remind ourselves of. We are in a position of power financially, and that does come from the board, and how the board has run this club. Whether you agree with what they're doing right now or what, but we are in a strong position financially. I look at Rangers, right, for example. Vaclav Černý, he was fantastic for Rangers. I mean, if you didn't play for them, you would take Černý in your team right now for Celtic. He was a quality player, done it at every level he was asked it for Rangers, and they had the opportunity to sign him, I think, for $7 million, and they couldn't sign him. They didn't have the money for it. if you look at Celtic could have made that deal no problem, just because of the position we've got ourselves in financially. But that is the type of player that we could be in the market for, somebody like that who has got quality, but isn't going to cost us, like you said, Ryan. You can go and spend that big $7 million on a player like that and get real value for money and what they bring back to the team. So I do agree with JP. It is going to be difficult to find these big, name players or established prolific players that are wanting to come and play their trade in Scotland. But in saying that as well, Ryan, like you said, if you offer them, a good deal, good money, if you sell what's on offer to them, with European football, then it can be done. It's just very difficult. This transfer market, we're seeing it with a lot of clubs over this transfer window. A lot of clubs are struggling to get in the players that they want, and for the price that they want. Some are playing well over the odds just to get players in, and that's where we're at now with football. It's a money game, it's a business. Clubs don't want to let go of their players. They don't want to undercut themselves, and if they do, they want to put on big sell-on clauses and whatnot. So I think the fact that Celtic are in a position that we can go and spend 7, 8, 9 million on a player does tell a lot about how the club's been run. It's very easy to get away from that fact, but we are in that position. We can do that, whereas the team at the other end of the pond, they can't. They're not as financially solid as us. So, let's just keep the faith and trust that we will get the players in that we need, because my God, do we need them.
No, I agree with you, Sean. I think we're definitely lacking quality, especially in the final third. Obviously, we've got players like Poussey, not seen him yet. For me, Daniel, last wee bit, and then I'll last up to you, mate. Obviously, we've signed Osmond. I'm being honest, people can clip this or bookmark it. I don't think I think he'll hard to go for Celtic. And Amura, the manager doesn't fancy him, obviously. I don't think he'll play much while he's here. Poussey, he's no fit yet. Why sign him if he can't come in and play? If you do, I think he's just replaced Scott Bain. I don't think he'll play much unless Casper and Sinisal have not suspension injuries, etc. You've got who else we signed? And Yamada. I don't see it yet. It's hard to judge him because he's only got 15, 20 minutes here and there. But I normally like to think within 5, 10, 15 minutes, the way somebody moves, the way their touch is, the way you can kind of tell somebody's got something. And I don't see it yet with Amada. Negrin looks okay. Like to see him more of him. Tierney, question about his fitness. Why he's only playing 65, 70 minutes? Is it a niggling injury that we don't know about? Again, clarity, communication, we don't know. Overall, Daniel, I think that's got to change as well. But it's already saying we signed 7 players, but technically only 2 started last night and 2 of them didn't even last 90 minutes. And for me, you're signing players to help you and impact you to get through at the playoffs, and they didn't really help you last night. And I'm a massive fan of KT, but even he wasn't great last night, mate.
Yeah, definitely. We can say we've signed 7 players, but realistically, for the way it's panning out, we've only signed 2 who are going to be involved in the first team quite regularly. Obviously, with Simpson Poussey, that's a bit different. He's not quite fit yet, but he has been on the bench and etc. So hopefully, further into the season, he can play a bit more of a role. But with the likes of Callum Osmond and Inamura especially, Brendan came out and said before the guy touched down in Glasgow that he's not going to be a part of the first team throughout the season.
I don't know what you guys, but I think it's madness what's happened with that. I really do.
Yeah, it's outrageous. Osmond, we were told, would be involved in the first team, but again, struggled to make the bench so far. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Yeah, hopefully from the boys that we've seen come in the door already, we do get a bit of a glimpse at them. I do think we'll see Simpson Puzzi more involved in the team once he gets up to fitness. But the KT only playing up to 65, 70 minutes just now is a bit of a concern. However, I do feel moving into the season that his numbers, how long he's lasting in a game, is starting to creep up. So I do think that will keep improving and we'll see more often of him. But yeah, with the likes of Osmond, Inamura and stuff, I think it becomes a bit of a when are we going to actually see them? Yeah, it's a tricky one.
A good man, Typhoon. How you doing, mate? Ryan, you say KT was a marquee signing. Now he's not fit to play. He is a marquee signing in terms of his quality, where he's came from, the quality that we know he has. We've seen it in the last few games. He's better than Greg Taylor, even though he's only maybe 70%, 60% fit. But it would have been nice to have Greg Taylor as it stands now. But again, like Sean says, and we've said here, we don't know if it was a disconnect between the board not wanting him to give him a high wage to be the second choice, and Brendan says, well, I want him. We don't know, like Sean says, yourself says, we don't know in between what's going on, because Brendan wanted him. He said he wanted him to stay. And then, as the board know, to be fair though, in a way, lads, I can understand if Greg Taylor's wanting 25, 27 and a week, are they going to give a second choice? Who, let's be fair, Greg Taylor would be the second choice if KT was fully fit. Are they going to give somebody near fit and the week to sit the bench and not play much? Right, he'd be playing, but it wouldn't be every week. I don't know about that, and maybe that's the reason behind it, but I think we can all agree, lads, that there's definitely a thing between this recruitment board, manager, maybe even players. I don't know. I read there's something going on at the club that it's got to get sorted either way, be that after this window, January or next year. But I think for the club to move forward, either way, we do need to change. But on that comment there, he is a marquee signing, I'm no questioning that. But if he's no fit in the next few weeks, I'm going to think, well, why is he only playing 60, 70 minutes? What's the reason behind it? Come out and tell us, is it an injury? Is it an injury for years ago that's popped up? Or is it just that he can't date anymore? And this is the reason why he's only playing that. Then we can understand that. But it's been a lot of chat about, lads. We could probably sit for another 3 years talking. But I think by that time the birds will be flying and the birds will be saying, right, it's wakey time. So, but again, Sean, thanks for your time, mate. Daniel, thanks for your time. I know there's a lot of comments I've not got through. It's been a busy night on the comments, but again, I've tried my best to get some through to Daniel and Sean there. So again, we will be back on tomorrow. Myself, Alan, and Mark will be on at 3 PM tomorrow afternoon. And then after that, we'll be back on as Monday for the aftermath of the game against Livingston Saturday. Sean, enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Daniel, enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. If you go to the game, enjoy the game. Back the team. Be as loud as you can. Try and get the 3 points and be leading into a game next week. Until then, lads and boys and girls, see you all then. Take care and hail, hail.
Cheers, Ryan.
Sets up Larson here. Larson, oh, he's in! Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! O'Reilly, how about that for a pass? Jota! How about that for a finish? That is Jota for you! In for Henrik Larsson, and Moravcik! His first goal for Celtic! Here is Shunsuke Nakamura! Exquisite!